This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Dream Power Radio. This is a show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love and rediscover the truth of who you really are. When I was in high school, I had a friend who seemed to not have anything going her way. She came from a low-income household, and she got the short end of the stick when it came to looks. She never dated, and her prospects for romance after high school looked dim. And yet, I never saw her without a big smile on her face. She always saw that glass half full, and she never called out those awful kids who teased her about her appearance. She had every justification in the book to suffer her way through school. And yet, she didn't. We parted ways after graduation, and I never got her secret sauce for maintaining optimism in the face of despair. I suffered my way through years of disappointment myself before realizing that there was a better way to live. My guest today, scientist and researcher Dr. Nancy Wiley, went through her own bouts of suffering until she found a way to dissolve it. Writes about it in her book, Divine Trust, a practical guide to end your suffering and find your way home. What's her secret sauce? Well, let's find out. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Dr. Nancy.
Thank you, Debbie. It's a pleasure to be here, and what you're doing is so beautiful, and it's helping so many people. I just love it. You can feel the vibration going out there.
I tell you, I think your book is going to help a lot of people too, because talking about vibration, you say that the key to finding peace and tranquility is having trust in the divine. So what is divine trust?
So if you look up the Webster Dictionary definition of trust, it's the firm belief in the reliability, strength, or truth of a thing. In this case, God, source energy, or whatever other name you're giving it. I usually call it source, or I call it God a lot, but there's such a stigmatism to God that it's not this man sitting on a cloud somewhere. It's an energy. And it seems to be, to me, my definition, it's both female and male. So it's everything. It's one energy. So at first, divine trust is you use someone else's definition of it to reach out to it, to see it, to experience it. And once you do, it's there waiting for you. And it's like this union. And once you see it, which first for me started with glimpses, I just had to kind of imagine the state of trust, trusting in this energy that's hosting all things. And eventually I saw little glimpses, and the glimpses got bigger and bigger and bigger until I just closed my eyes and it was there. And then even further, I surrender to it every day. So I feel like I've given up my human identity to do the work for this beautiful, exquisite energy. And I trust it that much. It's knowing without a doubt it's there. So at first it's based on faith. You're reaching out in faith. You don't really have tangible proof. Once you establish this relationship, it is there, it is real, it's tangible, it nourishes you, it feeds you, it fills you up till you're overflowing. I mean, many times when I do a daily meditation, I just cry tears of exquisite beauty. I don't know why I'm crying. I just feel so good. That is divine trust. And then take that one step further. So my book is based on, I was an orthodontist on the border of Parkland and Coral Springs, and I was working the day that mass shooting happened, and a mom standing next to me exclaimed there was an active shooter. The next morning, I got woken up at 5, and I was told I lost a patient and one of our staff lost her sister. The next day, I mean, we shut down, right? We shut the office down. We were going to funerals and end of life, whatever celebration. It wasn't a celebration. It was just exquisite pain. And at this point, my mom had just died. 5 days before this, we had her funeral. And I remember thinking, wow, I really have this unshakable trust. I mean, I handled that so well, where my dad, my sister, my brother did not. This happens 5 days later. It did kind of take me, wobble me, even though I felt like I was unshakable. But I went into deep meditation about 5 days after it happened, asking why. I believe there is not one hair out of place. Show me why this happens. Boy, did I get answers. And that's what's in the book. And that's what I'm teaching the Parkland kids.
That's wonderful that you can give back like that. And I was going to ask you about Parkland, but because I see that as kind of the end, not the end, but toward the end of your journey of accepting and embracing divine trust. So there must have been something going on in your life that caused you to question what was going on in your life that led you to this. So how did you get started?
The very first thing that made me think about it is I wanted to be a horse trainer when I was little. I loved horses. Like that was all I thought about. And my mom,
girls love horses.
I know, but that's what I wanted to devote my life to. And my mom, she didn't forbid me exactly, but she said I was too smart and I needed to use my intelligence to do other things. And then whatever I did, use the money I made from that to, enjoy horses. But I would just think about it, daydream about it all day and all night. And when I was 12, damned if some lady, a friend of my mom's, gave me her beautiful horse. He was so beautiful. I had him for 6 years. He was older. And I was like, that just doesn't happen. I think I manifested it. So I kind of started to think and look. But I was training myself to be a scientist, which is really uses the left brain and shuts down the consciousness, the right brain. If it's not logical, you don't believe it. So when I was, so intense on studying to get, to the endpoint so I could have horses, my mom thought something was wrong with me and I was just a little too intense. So she took me to learn transcendental meditation when I was 16. So she would also give me books like The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And then a friend of ours gave me Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi, which is just so mind expanding. So I held these things in mind. And as a scientist, I was like, that can't be. You can't walk on water. You can't manifest yourself, have a body here and and all of these things. And slowly I started studying quantum physics. I'm like, maybe quantum physics does explain a lot of it. And then I started to have the veil thin. I've been meditating now for like 20 years. And I started to have experiences, which I would make fun of other people at first. So I kept on it and these experiences kept opening up and I became a seeker at that point. Like I became insatiable. It was no longer horses. I was studying like this world, this fascinating world and trying all kinds of meditation. And in 2008, I found a wonderful teacher. I highly recommend anyone who has the chance to study with her. Her name is Jetta Molly. She's out of the UK. I was doing all of these meditations and I'm like doing this, like, where's all those great experiences I hear about in Paramahansa Yogananda's book? I'm like, they're not here. This is so damn boring. I mean, am I going to keep going? But I persevered. If there was a way to become enlightened in this manifestation, I'm going to do it. So I kept studying and then I found Jetta. Oh, she's the best. Oh my God. Probably from the first meditation I ever did with her, I had like explosions and openings until the point I achieved unity consciousness, which is where you realize you are everything and nothing all at once. And then from that point forward, it's like a boiled egg. You can never go back to being unboiled. So I operated differently. And the more I did, the more I heard. And now I have this relationship that's so strong with Source. It talks to me directly. I can ask any question. I get answers right back. And, at first I would say, well, that's my mind. It's my imagination. But no, it's got a different flavor, a different vibration, a different palpable sense that I know it's not from my ego, it's from a higher mind. And that's what I surrender to every day.
Yeah, it's funny when you're talking about getting that horse after all those years, you were practicing the law of attraction without even realizing it.
Yes.
And it was happening.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because you did go to dental school, you did learn to become an orthodontist, which is very scientific and like you said, using that part of the brain. Was it difficult for you being with other scientists and having these revelations and kind of justifying both
Yeah.
sides of your brain at the same time?
Oh, I was in the closet and still I still am, it's taken a lot of courage to do this, to write the book, to step out, to counteract, or actually it's not really counteracting. It's even opening the left brain to a higher version. So actually my left brain's become a faithful servant to my consciousness. It's a whole nother way of thinking. And before, it's coming from the scientific mind, if you couldn't see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, and then reproduce it in the physical world, it wasn't real. And now I had to leave that behind and go into this scientific world. There's very few of us, but there's more and more out there. Go into this world of the inner senses, the inner sight, the inner hearing, and trust it. And that's where it comes from. And it is something that I do feel like this will be my next step, is to actually teach this to the scientific world. And I always say, you know what, just hook up some electrodes to my brain when I go into unity consciousness. And that's where we're going to find Einstein died looking for the equation that would unify the unified field theory. It's not in the brain. It's not in that mind. It's in the consciousness. It's in being in the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll be able to get a mathematical formula, but it's here. It's in this consciousness, in the present moment. That's the doorway there.
There are a lot of scientists who are studying consciousness, and even in my field, dream work, trying to find the scientific justification for why do we dream? What is that all about? Because there are people who need the proof, they need the fact, and they can't take it on faith. But if you do, like you said, you were to use the word surrender. And I think it's very important when you surrender to it without realizing the reasoning, but just surrendering it. That's when you get that inner awakening and that growth, what happens there.
I think I needed to trust someone else's words that have been there. So that's why I started reading all kinds of books and studying with all kinds of people. And then my main teacher, Jetta, she actually was the trail guide there. I do think it's so helpful. It'll save so many people so much time if they find a guide that knows, that's been there, that guides them there. So it's almost like she held her light for me, and then my light turned on. And now it's my turn. My light is so bright. It's there to even this. I feel like I'm actually told this vibration, this speech that goes out, it's a vibration, and it is turning on lights. It's turning on lights just by speaking the truth out there.
Yeah, and you're right when you talk about people coming to this understanding or even having questions about it. If you're alone, you don't really, you think it's just you. You think it's some strange thing, and you don't really understand it. But right, when you do have a guide, when you do find a community, that's when things change. I want to get back to actually divine trust for a second, because when you talk about it, you talk about the concept of snap back. What is that?
That's a great question. So I believe we're all designed the same. So some people might be listening to this and say, oh, well, she's been doing it and she's special. I'm not. We are all designed exactly the same way. And we all have within our heart this calling home. So we are the divine. We're not a spark of the divine. We are full-fledged the divine working through us with the body. So we have a body, and each of us is part of it. It has its own unique expression, but we all have that same essence as our creator, as our makeup, but we don't realize it. But that's when we're born, we have it gives us amnesia, because it would be no fun to take a body and know that we're full-blown divinity, right? It's that waking up. It's like, oh my God, this is not like just what my mind says. I'm so much more. And those little glimpses I call aha or snapbacks to our divinity, to our true essence. And for me, they happen little bits at a time. And I think, a lot of us do that. Most of us do that. And there is points in history where people have one snap back and they know they're full blown divinity all over again. I had little inklings, little snapbacks, but there are points I can actually remember, and I write about in the book where I'm like, oh my god, what is going on here? And that's a snapback. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And on that, we are going to take a short break here. We are talking about divine trust with Dr. Nancy Wiley, and we'll be right back. If you're not pleased with the trajectory of your life, the time to begin your own personal transformation is now, and your dreams can help pave the way. How? By tapping into your unvoiced confidence. What is unvoiced confidence, you say? It's the acceptance of your abilities and qualities. It's a state of mind coming from liking and even loving yourself, and feeling free to say or do anything you want without concern for the judgment of others. You were born confident, but may have had it chipped away little by the negative self-beliefs you've picked up over the years. If you're looking for the heightened energy, clarity of thought, and the feeling of being more alive that comes from self-confidence, you can rediscover it by paying attention to your dreams. Need some help doing this? Go to my website, thedreamcoach.net, and sign up for my complimentary dream discovery session. I can help show you how your dreams can help you return to the confident person you were always meant to be. Again, go to thedreamcoach.net. thedreamcoach.net.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we're talking about divine trust with Dr. Nancy Wiley. Well, Dr. Nancy, you beautifully described your experiences in discovering and using divine trust. And people listening might say, well, yeah, but that's her. Can anyone do it? And you actually write in your book a process for how anyone can do it. So can you go into that a little bit here?
Sure. I think you're talking about chapter 3. In it, you first have to get into the present moment. And I talk about the breath and how you do it with the breathe up, breathe in, and then breathe out. And if you give your mind a job to do, you can actually navigate into the present moment, because that's like the number one comment I hear. I can't meditate. I've tried it several times. And then, people close you down. And it's like, well, have you ever tried guided meditation? Have you ever tried my guided meditation? I mean, that was the way it was. I was doing mantra meditation with transcendental meditation for 25 years. And that was the boring stuff, right? And then I tried a scientific holosync where, it's brainwave entrainment. I tried that for 8 years and no visible experience. But the first day I meditated with guided meditation with Jetta, bells, whistles, everything. I mean, it was so profound. And almost every time I sit down to have a meditation using that technique, it's just beyond words. It's just so fantastic and amazing. And it's just spectacular. Okay. So I was like, well, how do I do it? How do I teach people divine trust? So I was shown through my connection what they wanted. They wanted it short and they wanted it concise. So it's about 10 minutes long, the process in chapter 3. First, I explain it. And if you buy the book, it's also, I have audio files that go with it. There's a little barcode, you scan them and you can download those, which I think are much better, because when you're holding a book doing it, you're still in your left brain, your mind. It's like you have to be in the present moment. The more you can become present. And that's why we close our eyes, because we're shutting down some outer senses. So we want to start developing our inner senses. So what we do is start with a process of breathing in and breathing out. And I say you can either go on a roller coaster, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, or in a circle. Once you're there for a few breaths, you're actually in the present moment. And then I guide you to look around you, sense around you. Is it inert? Is all this area around us inert? And my feeling and my knowing and my skill has shown me that it's alive. It's actually this energy that's hosting everything. So it's in everything. It's in all things. It's in the space. It's in the solid things. It's in all humans and equal degree. The difference for humans is that we're able to become conscious in this present moment and aware that we are it. Now, I don't know if there's any other species out there that do that. I mean, I would love to think there's other intelligent life like whales, dolphins, chimpanzees, apes, even dogs. I mean, I would think all animals are able to do this, but I don't know. It's said that humans are unique in that our 6 centers or 7 actual chakra points or nerve plexus are actually energy conductors and receivers that no other animal species on the planet has availability to that. So basically what I do is a very short version of connection. And the more you do it, the more deeply you'll feel it and trust this energy. And what I really want to point out, okay, so how does divine trust end suffering? Right now, we are in the highest rate of divorce, drug addiction, alcoholism, abuse of all kinds, fear of our world, of the war, of the economy, political divide, you name it. So we're in this heightened expression, but we're also in the highest rate of people seeking, doing yoga, doing meditation. We've never had this many people doing that before. So when we go into this state, when we achieve this state, which I believe is like this innate calling every human being has, it's like, then what is the truth? Why am I here? And what is all this pain? What is all this suffering? Why do we have all this suicide rate like this? It's because we've lost this connection. But once we connect to it, we see that they're entrusted, right? Trusting it. There's no hair that is out of place. Once you know that with a surety, a certainty, there is no hair out of place. And you ask, well, why did that mass shooting happen? Why the war in Ukraine? Why did the pandemic happen? You get answers and you don't suffer. You see the evolutionary process of what it is and how maybe mass consciousness is, or collective consciousness is creating it, and how we can be powerful in taking a stand for love, a stand for goodness, and trusting this energy. And that dissolves the pain that comes with this. And it starts to change the fabric of reality. And that is why this is all happening. Do we want to continue as a race that has war and pandemics and mass shootings, or do we want peace and love? And I know what I stand for, what I choose. And I see that just by making the stand, planting my feet and standing in the present moment with trust and love and acceptance and realization that everything happens for a beautiful reason. I mean, it doesn't sound beautiful to our mind. It sounds awful, but it's in essence, if we knew in 100 years that all the crap we're going through right now happened to change us, would it have been worth it? And my answer, what I've been shown, is yes, it is worth it. But you have to look at it from the creator's perspective and not from the human mind, the small mind.
Yeah, well, you're talking, and this is beautiful. And you're talking about the collective community in terms of this. But what about getting back to the individual person?
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of a practical person. I'm looking for practical solutions. If you are going through a bout of suffering, whatever kind of suffering it may be, how can you use divine trust to help yourself?
Well, I have a master class. That's what it's really a 3-hour class. It's super short. It's like it starts with mind candy. Okay, well, why are we here? What's the meaning of it? What's the meaning of suffering? How can we transform it? And in the book, as we go further in the chapters, I have actual melting it. Like, I can take anyone It's not me. I can't say that. I can use my consciousness with this full-blown energy flowing through me and my light and my awareness. And we can melt just about anything and transmute it into the most exquisite beauty. And I do that with all kinds of, with physical ailments, mental issues, where we are psychologically suffering, also where the body has actually got issues. I do it with that. And I just was with my sister this weekend and she was having a problem. So I just did a little process, just bringing the light of consciousness to it, and her pain completely went away. And it stayed away. It's still away today. So I find that very interesting, just by using the light of consciousness. And that's how you transform it. It's literally, you can take anything your mind is labeling as bad, lacking, missing, wrong, where we're putting that there's something negative on it or resistance to it. Once you look at it, you stand in it with this light of consciousness and you bring it in, you welcome that in, it completely dissolves into the light of beauty. And it's just, I don't even know if my English language, what I'm saying right now, is making sense, but I'm hoping I'm conveying the essence of what happens. It transmutes everything into the truth of what it is.
And it is when you're willing to surrender to it, that's when the change happens, is my understanding of what you're saying.
Well, my sister didn't surrender to it. She just was in the present moment, and I used the light of consciousness to transmute it for her. So that's how it starts, with this guide, with being guided, shown the way. I think having an example to know that we can all do it. And then I used Jetta's confidence before I was able to do it myself. And then lo and behold, after I practiced it a bit, I mean, at first I thought when things were happening, it was her doing it, but it wasn't. It was actually the divine. And I borrowed her confidence to actually make things happen. But I think we all can do it.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, because you write it in your book, about the power of the words I am.
Mm-hmm.
Go into that.
Sure. So it's so funny how when you're first studying and you become a seeker and you hear that, I've always heard the two most powerful words are I am. And when you sit in it and you let it explain to you why I am is so powerful, it's a whole new level. So experiencing it firsthand versus hearing it first through our mental capacity and taking it in through the mind, it's a whole new world. So I am means that with the power of the connection to the creator, I am. You can just be and just simply I am. And when I do that, I feel like I'm the full power of the creator. Like I am God manifest here in complete form, in complete utter power of that creates worlds. And then you can add I am peaceful. And anything you add to the I am, it's the most powerful manifestation. That's my next book, is going to be on manifestation. It's the most powerful way, but also coming into the blank slate of the present moment and just being with nothing. I am, just be. And then when you intend to bring something into it, that's when creation happens. That blank slate is divine trust. And that is the foundation of which all other abilities and powers and all the hallowed ground start from. I am. Just I am. In that present moment, it's a glorious feeling of emptiness and wholeness. And when you start to put things into it, then, you start to do the creation process, which I briefly explain in one chapter, Divine Trust, but that'll be a whole new book on creation and manifestation.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that. But in the meantime, how can people find out more about you and your book?
Thank you. I appreciate that, Debbie. They can find me on trustthedivine.com, and my book is available. It's on Amazon. It's available in Kindle, paperback, and the Audible version, so they can get it. And if for your viewers, if they buy the book and they put the Amazon code in there and they go to Divine trustbook.com. There's 4 free, beautiful gifts. A meditation that I do, a meditation that a good friend of mine and a mentor, Dr. Sue Morter, does, and also Marcy Scheinmoth, Happy for No Reason workbook. And I think there's one other thing that I'm missing. I think an explanation about divine trust there too.
Well, Dr. Nancy, thank you so much for being on Dream Power Radio.
Thank you, Debbie. It's a pleasure. And thank you for your work you're doing, and all your listeners and watchers. Thank you for doing this. We're the light, and we're the reason the world will change.
Oh, well, thank you. We've been speaking with author and Dr. Nancy Wiley. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio.